First story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns education, the two-day conference that was held, and Malala Yousafzai's address to this conference. Let's hear what she had to say, and then we'll come back with our guests.
Conference will not be serving its purpose if we do not talk about the education of Afghan girls. In Afghanistan, an entire generation of girls is being robbed of their future, because Afghanistan is the only country in the world where girls are completely banned from education beyond grade 6. The Taliban have ripped away the right to learn from every Afghan girl. They have weaponized our faith. They want to eliminate women and girls from every aspect of public life.
Now, to discuss more on this two-day conference on education, we've been joined by three guests, in fact. Two are in the studios and one joins us online. Let me introduce my guests who are here with us in the studios. We've been joined by Naela Chohan. She's a former ambassador. Thank you very much, Naela Chohan, to have joined us. We've also been joined by the Federal Secretary for Education, Mohyuddin Ahmed Wani. Mohyuddin, thank you very much to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Zahir Shah Sherazi, who is a senior analyst. Zahir, thank you very much to have joined us as well. We'll begin with you, Mohyuddin, because of course it was mostly due to efforts of persons such as yourself that we've had this two-day important conference that was held on Saturday and Sunday. This international conference on girls' education in Muslim communities, challenges and opportunities, aimed at addressing the challenges and opportunities in advancing girls' education amongst the Muslim communities worldwide, to foster dialogue between communities and between nations, and to find actionable solutions to address the challenges. More than 40 countries and their representatives were here. Important celebrities were here as well. The Secretary General of the OIC was here as well. Did the conference achieve its purpose?
Yes, it did. The reason being that now girls' education is becoming part of the international narrative. It has become part of the national narrative. It has been now debated and endorsed by the religious establishment of Pakistan. It was not 2 days conference. There was a third day also, Friday evening, when all the top religious scholars, they attended a moot there in the convention center, including Maulana Taqi Usmani, Maulana Fazlur Rahman, Maulana Raghib Naimi, and many other top scholars of Pakistan. And they started with endorsement of this convention's narrative that girls' education and Islam are reconcilable, and it endorses girls' education, the religion, and any custom and tradition which is impeding the girls' education in our Islamic world has nothing to do with Islam. So that was on the positive note, first time in the history of Islamic world that girls' education has become part of the religious agenda also of the governments. And Pakistan is fortunate enough that it has taken the lead in collaboration with Muslim World League, OIC, and other countries. And especially Malala came to support this whole initiative. So the outcome was first to admit that this is an issue. Second, to find solutions, and not only legislative, but technology-wise, more investment, and how to collaborate and cooperate within the Islamic world and outside the Islamic world to ensure that 51% of our population, they get access to the best quality education, to make this country more economically productive, and to ensure equity in the society.
All right. Naela Chohan Sahaba, our Prime Minister also on Saturday called for collective efforts to remove cultural and social impediments to ensure women's access to education. He talked about creating scalable and sustainable opportunities to ensure women's education. He talked about millions of young girls who will be entering the field in the next decade, and that they need to be given the right education so that they can contribute effectively to the society. He talked about innovative solutions to the shared challenges that they have, and he talked about the rich legacy of the Muslim world, including Pakistan, that was facing numerous challenges in ensuring equitable access to education for girls. How do you view these statements? How achievable are they? Can we achieve what the Prime Minister or what Pakistan is asking for from the Muslim world?
Thank you so much for inviting me to your program. It's a very important point that you have made, and like the Federal Secretary Education has spoken, the point is that somehow, although if you look at Islam, Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam encouraged education. And there is, in Quran, it addresses men and women alike. But somehow, over the period of time, cultural, traditional factors played in, and misinterpretations started emerging. These are more cultural and traditional practices rather than religion. But now that narrative needed to be brought forth, because for the rest of the world, Islam, wrongly is seen as synonym for suppression of women, whether it's education, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's human rights, all these factors are packaged, which is not true. As ambassador, when I was abroad, people would ask me questions, how are you Pakistan's ambassador? I said, because I am a Muslim, that's why I'm here. So this narrative was very important, and I think I would like to congratulate the government for taking this initiative, because there are many Muslim countries and a lot of work is being done, but in silos. So this is the first time that it was an international conference in which not only the women, because usually women's issues are discussed by women, so it kind of is alienated from the rest of the society. But here you had imams, you had scholars, you had intelligentsia, you had academia, you had media, and the Islamabad Declaration calls for all of them to play their part in creating that awareness, not just in Pakistan, but the rest of the Muslim world also.
All right, Zahir Shah Sherazi, coming to you. Our education minister has said that Islamabad had extended an invitation to Kabul, but no one from the Afghan government was at the conference. Nobel laureate and activist Malala Yousafzai has also urged Muslim leaders not to legitimize the Taliban government in Afghanistan, recognizes as perpetrators of gender apartheid, quote unquote. She talked about the urgent crisis of millions of girls who cannot go to school. 120 million girls, she said, globally are affected. She also talked about Islam's fundamental value of seeking knowledge. She also said that in Afghanistan, Taliban want to eliminate women and girls from every aspect of public eye and erase them from society. How do you view these? Because the statements are very long, but I just gave you a little crux of that. How do you view these statements?
Omar, thank you very much. I think the statements are very encouraging. But as the Honorable Ambassador and the Secretary Education earlier mentioned, perhaps it was a good conference in a sense that for the first time the Islamic countries gathered on an issue which has always been misinterpreted, and basically the narrative which is creating an issue. Now, who has imposed Taliban on Afghanistan? Because it's totally a non-inclusive government which don't have all the stakeholders. Now, if you are saying that they are not allowing girls to go to schools, they have put a ban on the working women, and all this had been done under the patronage of the international coalition led by the United States. Okay, Malala is saying good. I think she should be giving a message to all those elements who have imposed and infused a radicalized Islam in the madrasas of Pakistan and Afghanistan, especially on the bordering areas. And after that, nothing had been done for the de-radicalization of that thing. Now, most of the Pashtun society, where the customary practices are, the social norms are considered very important, and this extremist brand of Islam, which was imposed in the name of jihad at that time to flush out the Russians, it continued. Now that thing has been transformed, and it gradually went into, extremism and terrorism, and now we are facing the brunt. So actually we have to be very clear. The Muslim countries and their leadership, I think they have given a very clear message that Islam is the religion of peace, equality and gender parity. It has given equal rights to men and women. I think there is no question about that. So the narrative which had been wrongly connected to this region, that perhaps Pakistan and Afghanistan, there the women are caged, they are not allowed to go out, I think it's not the thing. Obviously, sitting in Islamabad and discussing all these issues are very important, but we have to be very realistic about the the rural part of Pakistan, which mostly include the tribal areas, which include the KP, which would also be including the interior Sindh. So all these issues, we have to be very realistic that the religious scholars, the academia, the media, and all those people who had been there and they were extending their pledge, what they would be doing when they go back to their own areas. So this is very important. I think the role of religious scholars is very important. For example, we have seen there was a huge resistance to polio vaccination, but now most of those religious scholars, they are supporting the polio vaccination, they are giving sermons, they are giving fatwas. So obviously, if really at the state level we wanted to promote girls' education, we wanted to create an environment where all the girls should go to schools, perhaps all these stakeholders are very important. I think I would appreciate for the first time we have seen at the state level the religious scholars who at least had pledged to promote girls' education. And importantly, coming to Afghanistan, I think the world community and the Muslim world, I think it can play a very important role in realizing the importance of education to the Taliban government, and it should be very much clear. And perhaps what Malala suggested, that Afghanistan should not be recognized as a state until and unless they give an equal right to women, they include women in their administrative setup, they have an inclusive government which should be including all the stakeholders, including women. And the top priority should be the girls' education, because in Islam, I don't think so there is any justification that you should not be, you should be stopping women for getting education. So I think the world as well as this conference, I think this message should be very much clear to the Kabul administration, that if they really want it to be a state, they have to realize that girls are very important, and more than 50% of this population is they have equal rights to work, to education, and to do any trade they wanted to.
All right, point taken. Mohyuddin, you wanted to add something to that?
I would like to add, like we have discussed the role of Taliban or conservatism, but the problem is much deeper. The problem is doesn't emanate from the conservative attitude. It emanates from poverty. It emanates from lack of nutrition. It emanates from lack of access, road, transport, power, wash facilities in schools, lack of teachers, girls teachers, female teachers in the schools. So the girls' education issue, 80% is related more to economy, more to infrastructure, more to the working environment in which the girls have to come and study. So we have to go for a 360 degrees approach, and the declaration also addressed that the tribal customs part, yes, it inhibits, but these things which relates to poverty and other things, they also relate, and they also relate to poor girls numbers in our schools. So we have to address the infrastructure part, we have to add more schools into it, we have to educate more girls to become teachers, to train them, to allow them to study in a very friendly ecosystem of learning. So this one angle is okay, but it's not enough.
All right. Mohyuddin, also I'd like to understand, the Prime Minister on Saturday said that women comprised half of our population, but the female literacy rate stood at 49%, while alarmingly around 22.6 million children in the age bracket of 5 to 8 years are out of school. Malala Yousafzai on Sunday talks about the women and girls. She said 12.5 million girls are out of school in Pakistan. The Premier also talked about inadequate infrastructure, safety concerns, deeply entrenched societal norms. Malala Yousafzai also said that the conference is the beginning of the new journey where we commit to the future of every girl to have access to quality education, to make this vision a reality in our lifetime. And of course, she, and I'm sure you also agree with her, she's talked about all of us being champions of our faith by being champions for girls and their right to learn. How can we move forward around these lines? The two-day conference has ended, but now is the whole implementation phase. How will all the representatives from the countries who were here will take this to their respective countries, and how will Pakistan move forward from now on?
Basically, Girls' Education Conference is not the first step. We already last May, we announced establishment of National Education Emergency Task Force, and it was specifically designed to address the out-of-school children issue in Pakistan, which is a great challenge for us, and which the weakest link is the girls factor which are being addressed. So we have to, we are planning to establish an out of school challenge fund. We are working together with the provinces to address the issue of this out of school children through a targeted activity. We can't thin out our efforts. We have now data with us from the Pakistan Institute of Education, where we know the concentration of out of school children in the lagging districts and tehsils of Pakistan, especially in Balochistan, a couple of Sindh, Punjab, Fata and AJK. And we have to now allocate more resources to address the issue of out of school children in these particular districts where the number is 70 to 80%. So general 49% figure doesn't say at all. It is very deep, and it is very specific in certain different districts for different reasons. So the approach has to be targeted. The approach has to be in a very collaborative and cooperative manner between the federal government and the provincial government and the non-profit organizations and the private sector and the international NGOs, bilateral sector, private. So, and the World Bank and ADB and FCDO, they all are coming up with their own additional financing for specifically addressing this issue of out of school children in lagging districts of Pakistan.
What about the 17-point Islamabad declaration? You've alluded to that, Naela Chohan Sahib has alluded to that. It warns, I mean, I'm going to just highlight some of the points. It warns against extremist ideologies, fatwas and opinions rooted in cultural norms. It mobilizes all resources to support Islamic countries in advancing education, urges local and international organizations to create digital sources to improve girls' access to education, pledges scholarships to girls affected by poverty, conflicts, and Muslim countries are urged to enact laws to promote girls' education with media institutions awareness on this issue as well, and also says that all those who reject or oppose Islamic religious principles on education should be disavowed. I want to understand what commitments exactly have been made, because you were there and you have been on the forefront as far as this conference and more concerning education is concerned. What commitments have been made under the Islamabad Declaration by all the parties concerned, and how are they going to move forward as per these 17 points?
Basically, these 17 points, these are the statement of intent of the legislature of the executive of Pakistan and the executive of all 56 Islamic countries. In addition, all the bilateral and other partners, they have committed themselves. So these are the goals and the targets we have to achieve. And now we have to work in a forward manner to achieve these targets in the next coming years. And we will now judge, people will judge, citizens of Pakistan and citizens of Muslim judge us on the basis of our commitment to implement these points which have been agreed upon in this declaration. So its declaration is a roadmap to move forward and to address this challenge of girls' education in a very affirmative action manner.
All right. Naela Chohan Sahiba, Malala Yousafzai not only talked about Afghanistan, she talked about the plight of the girls and the women in Palestine as well. She talked about the future of girls that was stolen in Gaza, where Israel has decimated the educational system. 90% of educational institutions have been destroyed, she said. She also lambasted Israel for destroying these education institutions in Gaza. She said Palestinian children have lost their lives and future. She also vowed to keep calling out Israel's violations of international law and human rights. When Malala Yousafzai talks on any platform, especially when she comes to her country of origin and talks about it, it is noted by every single international outlet. I was seeing that all the international news agencies picked it up, including from our not so friendly neighborhood. How do you view this, and do you feel this is going to have any impact whatsoever?
Well, definitely it will have impact, but we have to look at the bigger picture. Like the Secretary Saab said, you have Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and Goal 5 is about women. And our deadline is 2030. We are just 5 years away from achieving that parity on paper. But in reality, it is a very serious issue. Of course, when you have people like Malala Yousafzai coming, it draws more attention of the international community. And she obviously addressed the issue of women in Gaza, in Palestine, and women in Afghanistan. If you look at Afghanistan, you would recall that when the new so-called new Taliban regime had taken over after the Doha talks, they had made their commitment that they are not like the old Talibans and they will not be as repressive, and they will give women the right to education, and have more participatory government and more inclusive, and which women will have as much role in decision making, but they reneged from their commitment. And if you recall, in the earlier Taliban government, Pakistan had recognized, but this time Pakistan took a regional approach, and we said that the regional countries will collectively decide whether Taliban regime merits recognition, and that was a prerequisite that they commitments they made at Doha.
All right.
This they did not do. So, neither Pakistan nor other regional countries have recognized this regime, Taliban regime. And if you look at China also, although China is working on BRI and Pakistan is working on BRI, last year we had trilateral meeting also in which their interim minister was also here, Afghan, but of course the Chinese minister was also here. Discussions are going on. The Taliban regime has to understand that if they do not change their ways, they are not only bringing bad name to Islam, they are also destroying their own country.
I agree with you on that. Zahir Shah Sherazi, coming to you, I'll again quote something that Malala Yousafzai said, because I managed to hear what she had to say, the 11 or 12 minutes address to the assembly. She talked about again the Taliban regime as perpetrators of gender apartheid. She said, do not legitimize them or do not make compromises on our faith. She said, support the crimes against humanity treaty, hold the Taliban accountable, push your governments to engage in the process. Time to prevent an extremist regime to systematically erase women and girls. The path forward, she said, lies in political solutions and using the power of international law and human rights to bring justice. And the plan requires a united force from the Muslim scholars to openly challenge and denounce Taliban's oppressive laws. And she said, speak for what Islam stands for. How important are all of the points that she has highlighted? Do you feel they can actually be implemented, or there are lacunas in between as well?
Well, I think, Omar, the real issue is implementation. You know, the Millennium Development Goals 1, 2, and 3, what does it say? Eradicate poverty, promote primary education, and, you know, empower women and gender equality. So these are the top 3 priorities of the international community. So how the Taliban are operating there, I would again say, yes, it can happen and it can be implemented if the world powers, especially the regional countries, they give a very clear message to the Kabul regime that they have to act like a sovereign state. They should not be following the tribalism and the regionalism policy of what they conceive Islam as. I think, you know, imposing the extremist tendencies and extremist values of Islam on the entire Afghanistan, it would not be a justified thing. And as they had agreed earlier, perhaps the international community is now, it has the obligation to, you know, convince, rather force Taliban to follow that. But importantly, I think the international players have their own stakes. Perhaps they are more focused on the counter China policy. They are more focused on the Ukrainian crisis. They are least bothered about what is going on in Afghanistan, because a number of people, like another conference which was held in Afghanistan, perhaps all the stakeholders have repeatedly raised their concern about the non-inclusion of all the stakeholders in the administrative process as well as the girls' education. But you know, the Taliban government, I think perhaps they have to be conveyed. The Arab Islamic countries, the OIC countries, perhaps they can be play an effective role. And then we obviously have all those religious scholars, the religious madrasas. I think those religious scholars should be engaged. Maulana Samiul Haq played a very important role in promoting this cause for the polio. They can be a good forum to take on. And importantly, I think at the state level, Pakistan, Iran, as well as the Arab countries who have an influence on Afghanistan in one way or the other, perhaps they can, force this, what Malala was suggesting. But importantly, you can say now the US is, I think Afghanistan is the third largest recipient of the US aid, $1.93 billion after Ukraine and Israel. So I think the international community must also be looking towards those powers who have imposed Talibanization again on Kabul. This is very important. I think you cannot do it without the assistance of those power stakeholders who have their own interests, who are still using Afghanistan as a proxy. As earlier the Secretary Saab was saying that perhaps poverty, rehabilitation, non-development, these are also the issues where the girls are not being provided education. But we have an example of Chitral district. This is a remote area. There is extreme poverty, but you have seen the literacy rate, how much high literacy rate we have when it comes to the girls' education, because we have a parallel education system of Afghan school system which is working there. So I think we should be realistic enough. The education department should also be reprioritized. They should be prioritizing the what actually is needed to promote girls' education. And then after fifth, sixth grade, you have seen a lot of dropout girls coming. At the fifth and sixth level, they go to school, but then suddenly you have a dropout ratio which is very high. So we have to be very careful about planning that how we can bring more girls to schools instead of facilitating them to get dropped out. So the parents as well as the local community, I think it should be engaged. And we have an example here very much in one of the remotest districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where girls are going to school. Now most of those girls are now in the Middle East, in the UAE and other countries, and they're serving very effectively.
All right. Point taken. Mohyuddin, last question as far as this important segment is concerned. We know the efforts that you've put in as far as education, in not only in the federal area is concerned, but also in Gilgit-Baltistan and other places. And of course, the vision that you've brought is something that a lot of people should look forward or are looking forward to. When you look at a very important mood such as this, let's concentrate on this two-day mood. And of course, all the people from different communities, from different countries, from different regions of the world who were here, who have talked, who have discussed, and then to add to that were the ulemas, who also had a very unanimous point of view as far as education for girls is concerned. What's the way forward from here? I'm not just being Pakistan specific, but Muslim world specific. How can the Muslim world move forward in order to remove all the negative perceptions about girls, about women and about education?
The first thing is to allocate more resources. The government should come in, because the more you allocate resources, the more you will be in a position to address these issues. Secondly, to regularly review this commitment every 2 or 3 years, because it shouldn't be a one-time event, and it has to be reminded to our communities on regular basis to address this issue, that this challenge is not going away in next couple of years. It will take a decade to scale down the version, the impact of this decades of mistreatment towards girls when it comes to education. So we have to move forward, and we have to build partnerships and the coalitions with the private sector, non-profit sector, international organizations to address it. He is rightly saying in Chitral, in Hunza, it's not the government alone which is working, it's the non-profit sector also going on. So we have to build coalitions to address this challenge, and without building up a coalition and creating an atmosphere of collaboration and cooperation, we are going nowhere. So it's this conference was a building of a coalition. It's a political coalition which will translate itself into a more tangible an organizational activity, giving more tangible results on ground, inshallah.
Will be able to learn from each other's experiences.
Yes. And they will, they have, and they are. In this conference, there were a lot of sessions where a lot of experiences from Malaysia, from Turkey, they were shared. The use of technology, it's a great equalizer. Technology helps girls getting access to all the learning material through online sources. So technology has to be embedded in our curriculum, in our teaching methodology, so that the girls, that becomes an equalizer in itself. A girl living in Chitral or in remote valleys of Chilas, she will have the same access to education material which a kid of Finland or Japan is having. So we have to invest more in technology in the coming years to come.
All right. Thank you very much, Mohyuddin Ahmed Wani, to have joined us for this very important segment, and thank you to my two guests also to have talked about education. I will request you to stand here, and Mohyuddin, thank you very much to have joined us.